Once upon a time, in a small village, there lived a man and his wife who longed for a child. After many years, their wish was granted, and the wife found herself expecting a baby. From their window, they could see a lush garden belonging to a wicked enchantress. This garden was filled with all kinds of beautiful plants, but the wife's craving was for the rampion, a fresh, leafy vegetable that grew there. As her craving grew stronger, she begged her husband to steal some rampion from the garden. Unable to refuse his wife, the man crept into the garden late at night and took some. The wife was delighted, but her craving only grew. Desperate, the husband returned to the garden for more, but this time, the enchantress caught him.
You dare to steal from my garden? You will pay dearly for this.
The terrified man begged for mercy, explaining his wife's condition. The enchantress softened, but only slightly.
You may take all the rampion you wish, but in return you must give me the child your wife will bear.
The man, in despair, agreed to her terms. And so, when the baby girl was born, the enchantress appeared, took the child, and named her Rapunzel. Rapunzel grew into a beautiful girl with long, golden hair. When she turned 12, the enchantress locked her away in a tall tower deep in the forest. The tower had no door, and only one small window at the very top. Whenever the enchantress wanted to visit, she would stand at the base of the tower and call out,
Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair so that I may climb the golden stair.
Rapunzel would let her long golden hair fall from the window, and the enchantress would climb up, using it as a ladder. Years passed, and Rapunzel lived in the tower, unaware of the world outside. But one day, a prince was riding through the forest and heard Rapunzel singing. Entranced by her voice, he followed the sound until he found the tower. He watched as the enchantress called for Rapunzel and climbed up her hair. The next day, the prince returned and called out in the same way.
Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair, so that I may climb the golden stair.
To Rapunzel's surprise, it was not the enchantress who appeared at her window, but a kind and handsome prince. At first, she was frightened, but the prince spoke gently and told her how he had heard her singing. They soon became friends, and as time passed, they fell in love. The prince visited Rapunzel every evening, and together they made plans to escape. Rapunzel would let down her hair, and the prince would bring her silk, which she wove into a ladder. But before their plan could be completed, the enchantress discovered the prince's visits. In a rage, she cut off Rapunzel's hair and banished her to a lonely desert. When the prince returned that night, the enchantress let down the severed hair. As he climbed, he found himself face to face with the wicked enchantress, who mocked him cruelly. Devastated, the prince leapt from the tower. He survived the fall, but thorns below blinded him. Heartbroken and lost, he wandered the forest, searching for Rapunzel. Years passed, and Rapunzel, now living in the desert, had given birth to twins. One day, as she sang a lullaby, the prince heard her voice and followed it through the wilderness. When they finally reunited, Rapunzel's tears of joy fell onto the prince's eyes, miraculously restoring his sight. With his sight restored and his love found, the prince led Rapunzel and their children back to his kingdom, where they lived happily ever after. And so, dear listeners, this tale of love and courage reminds us that even in the darkest of times, hope can light the way to a happy ending.